Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Friday edition of Check-In as we get ready for game number 56 of the season between the Winnipeg Jets. Tonight, it's the New York Islanders in town as the final game before a couple of weeks off with the Four Nations break.
Yeah, it's, lots of things to be excited about at the break.
Yeah.
For a lot of players. So I think it's a fair question to be asking them, are you looking forward to the sun and fun that's coming or the Four Nations face-off? But, a lot of guys have been very adamant about the fact that they have a job to do, which is this game tonight. They've won 7 in a row. We have a chance at 8, tied with the Washington Capitals atop the National Hockey League standings. So I think there's, one order of business to get, and then you can go do what you're going to do afterwards. But one thing about this team that we've seen is they've done a great job preparing for that next game, and that's their primary focus.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been one of the hallmarks of this team this season, and part of the reason why they've been able to have the success that they have had. Over the next 30 minutes, though, we will get you ready for tonight's game against the Islanders. Also, we'll talk a little bit about the Four Nations as well. As always, you can catch us on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Smash that like button. Here are today's guests.
Yeah, Greg Wyshynski coming up from ESPN, his second appearance, coming from his garage. And the guy that, what? You got a problem with the way I'm doing something? Okay. Chris Cuthbert, you may know him. You may have heard of him. Hockey Night in Canada. Can you guys tell one CFL story when we're on this one? On this show?
Maybe.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Chris Cuthbert. So
we'll have to ask him about something CFL related.
But he is calling the Four Nations face-offs.
He is.
Yeah.
So great to be able to have him on as well. But as you mentioned, going into this game tonight, Jets have won 7 in a row, 8-2 in their last 10 games. And as much as you might look at it with the recent opponents of Washington, Carolina, we've seen all these teams that have been at the top of the league standings or top 2 in the Metropolitan Division. You can't certainly overlook the Islanders, who have had one of the best stretches also over this 10-game period, 8-2 as well. They have pulled themselves right back into the playoff picture in the East, which leaves for some interesting questions and I'm sure debates over the next few weeks leading into March 7th and the trade deadline as to how do the Islanders approach this.
Yeah. But how about that log jam of teams in the Eastern Conference fighting for those 2 wild card spots? That's where the big issues lie in terms of what the trade deadline is going to look like, because are those teams going to sell off or stay in the hunt? So,
well, and that's one of the things that when you look at, you and I have discussed before, the number of that it's not just the points that you need to make up, it's the number of teams that you have to jump over in order to be able to get into one of those 2 wildcard spots. They have been able to do that.
No Dobson.
Yeah, and they've had a ton of injuries that they've had to.
Matt Barzal's hurt right now too.
Out indefinitely. So they've had to contend with numerous injuries, but they have been able to pull themselves back in. They're now 4 points back with just 2 teams ahead of them for that wild card spot. But lots to discuss with that. But let's take a look at the Winnipeg Jets and turn our attention to it, because morning skate happened today, and there was a change from what we saw, and it's happening on that 4th line. Brad Lambert, who has been called up for the last few weeks, hadn't seen him drawn into the lineup yet, though, since being recalled, but we will tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be on the right side of the 4th line with Alex Iafallo and David Gustafson. Of course, that line has been extremely effective, and good on Parker Ford making his minutes valuable in his time, and of course, Connor Hellebuck will draw back in between the pipes. Eric Comrie getting the shutout on Tuesday, which is fantastic news. His first shutout since returning to the Jets, and of course, first one since the last one coming when he was with the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see tonight. One of the things that Scott Arniel has done when he has called up players is that we've discussed this before, and actually when Brad got into the lineup for 4 games earlier this season, was that Scott Arniel and the coaching staff were calling up players that fit the particular role with which there was that's opening.
Well, yeah, Nikita Chibikov and Brad Lambert in the top 6,
right?
Because of their skill set, and Parker Ford is perfect for that 4th line role as well.
So you're not seeing that this time around, and Scott Arniel was asked about it as well, and essentially that wanted to get Brad into a game, deserves to get into it, but try something different a little bit. I think also when you look at the success that you've been having recently, you don't want to make any changes to what you've been seeing in your top 6.
Yeah, that part you can't, because the second line has been extremely effective during this win streak. You're not touching that. But I like the idea that you have called somebody up. You don't want them sitting in the press box for too long. So that's a great way of handling things. And of course, It allows Scott Arniel and the coaching staff to see what, if they have to, if injuries happen, maybe Brad Lambert, it can be effective on the fourth line. We'll find out a little bit about that tonight.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Power play continues to roll for the Jets as well. We've said that all season long. So,
well, here's the impressive part. So Carolina comes in here on Tuesday. They have the number one penalty kill in the National Hockey League. They had allowed 2 power play goals in their previous 12 games combined. Jets scored 2 power play goals against them. So in that battle of best versus best, the Jets win that one, and it's the second power play unit though. So 3 consecutive games, the second power play has opened the scoring on the power play. So it's just like that is the depth of this hockey team, being the examples of it coming over and over and over again, and it happened again on Tuesday.
Yeah, one of those players on that second power play unit, Alex Iafallo, who I caught up with. Final game before the Four Nations break. How do you approach this game tonight against the Islanders?
Yeah, it's a big game with this break coming up. They're a good team. They're doing well too. So we gotta, bring the pressure early. Get on the forecheck, but keep our principles the same defensively.
You guys seem to be doing a really good job of that recently. What is it when you look overall over this 7-game win streak that you guys have had that stands out to you most about the style of game that you're playing?
Yeah, everybody's buying into the system. Getting pucks out, blocking shots. Doing the job that you're supposed to do, and everybody's staying on top of it, staying positive. Those kind of things, they go a long way. I think everyone's doing a great job with communication in the D zone. It's been a lot of fun, obviously, especially this win streak, so we got to keep that going.
When you look at the power play, I mean, both the first and the second unit working so well, or does communication play a role in the power play as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the coaches do a great job, showing us stuff before the game, and, when we're out there, just kind of, it's easy to communicate, with the guys, and, everybody's always talking about which play to do and et cetera. So, have both units going, we got to keep that going and keep that momentum.
It can be a plus to be able to have a break, I would imagine, but also you guys have been rolling, so I'm sure there's a little bit of that fine line plus and minus. Yeah. Are you looking forward, though, to having a little bit of a break just to be able to regenerate, or would you like to keep going?
Yeah, with this win streak, we might as well keep going, but no, it's good to get a break. You got to, especially before, everything at the end, you want to be fresh and stuff, so, it's a long break, but, once we get out of it, we got to keep that momentum and this thing rolling.
Thanks so much for the time. I always appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
It is a longer break, but it's one many of us are looking forward to.
I feel bad. I cut you off.
Oh, that's fine.
So, even out of the corner of my eye, I can just sense, you're like, what was that?
No.
Oh, don't start with this
Game
stuff.
56. Are you kidding? We're about to go on a 2-week hiatus from having to see each other. This is
so much so I have to leave town to do it.
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
Yeah. Okay.
I've kicked you out.
And I mean that nicest way possible. So you booked my flight out of here? Is that what you did?
That's right.
You along with Des?
No.
But go ahead.
5 a.m. flight out. Multiple connections to get you
to one place.
Because you're covering the Four Nations.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you looking forward to it?
Oh my gosh. So I'm so excited. I mean, lots of people are talking about, what they're going to do. They're going to Fun and Sun. I just can't wait to go watch this tournament. So I know we're going to get into it a lot more with Greg Wyshynski and, of course, Chris Cuthbert a little bit later. But I truly think, and we'll get back to the Jets game here momentarily, it'll be a slower start, but once the competitive juices start flowing, it will be a great tournament. It truly will. And keep in mind, they're not the players that are going, and I don't mean to speak for them. If they're saying that, they're not looking at this as it's just a nothing tournament. The Olympics are next year. So you're trying to put a good foot forward. Not that Connor McDavid has to worry about his spot in the Olympic roster, but there are other guys in this way. It's going to be, I'm excited. It'll be great. And Montreal and Boston, great cities.
Great cities. It'll be
just
great.
It'll
be great. Everything's great.
Everything's going to be fine.
The Jets come into tonight 21-5-3 is their home record. The Islanders 12-10-5 on the road. But as I mentioned, they've been having the success lately. Very different special teams. The Islanders certainly do not have the sort of potent power play that we have seen. So that'll be one of the ways that the Jets have an edge this evening. But the Islanders have had the Jets number.
Well, they're gritty.
That's exactly
they make
it.
it extremely
Face-offs
hard.
Is something you got to watch out for with them as well. And another tough test. But as you mentioned, this is a team, and I'm sure those of you watching that have watched all of these Jets games and the way that this team has evolved over this season, that this is a very resilient team, that they and that they do a good job of focusing, as cliche as it is, on the game at hand. And I think that that's one of the keys, because going into a long break, so often, we always make this comment going into the All-Star break about, is everyone's mind already? Are they already on the plane? Or are they already thinking about how they're going to spend their time? And this is a Jets team that has proven this season to be very good at focusing. And then you come back from the break and you try to get that momentum going as quickly as possible and carry it over, because then it is a condensed push right through to the postseason.
When I think of focus, I think of Greg Wyshynski.
You think of focus with me? Oh my God! Have you ever listened to a podcast I've done?
First time you've ever heard that.
And all kinds of you tune in to listen to hockey talk, and all of a sudden we're talking about He-Man cartoons and stuff. I mean, it's just I have no focus.
He-Man, that was a great cartoon.
I mean, it certainly
Thundercats?
Thundercats,
all of it. Yeah,
that was a great era.
Shout out She-Ra, obviously.
Yeah.
No,
Princess of Power.
See,
they're actually doing a He-Man movie. With Nicholas Gullickson, who was in what was that Red Hot and Royal Blue movie, and then he was also the guy that was the Harry Styles proxy in that Anne Hathaway movie that came out recently.
Oh, okay.
He's playing He-Man, and I'm trying to think about how much muscle this kid needs to put on to be He-Man, and it's daunting. It's a daunting amount of muscle.
You can put on the Halloween costume though; that'll work.
Exactly.
The fake muscles, perfect.
It was very popular in the 80s.
I loved it. I loved He-Man.
Oh, I love G.I. Joe, actually.
G.I. Joe was the best.
On a different note.
G.I. Joe. Okay, go ahead.
I used to live out in the country. Grade 1, took the school bus, and we had a very long driveway. And so at 4:00 was when G.I. Joe was on, and I used to get off the bus and I would sprint down the driveway to go in and so that I didn't miss the music for the opening.
Okay, so G.I. Joe, the best part about that
look at how off the rails we are, Greg, already.
We'll get to the point here in a second. G.I. Joe, the best part was Cobra had the worst shot ever. There was shots going past all the G.I. Joe guys, never got hit ever. They had the worst. That's why Cobra never won.
Not to get too granular, but the worst thing about Cobra was they would create these doomsday devices. They create an incredible weather machine.
Yeah.
And then G.I. Joe would blow it up. And it would always land in 3 pieces. Yeah. And it would always be one piece is in the Arctic, one piece is in the jungle, and one piece is underwater. And then they all have to go find them. And every single time, I don't know what technology they were dealing with, but it was always 3 pieces in 3 different environments. And then it was a race between G.I. Joe and Cobra to find the pieces.
Yeah.
Every time.
Couldn't beat the 80s for cartoons.
The best.
All right, let's get it back on the rails.
All right. Sorry about that. All right, let's get on here. Let's talk about the Winnipeg Jets. They have found themselves back atop the ESPN power rankings. It's been a while since we talked to you. We talked about the power play not being sustainable at 40-something%. It's around 33%. What are you liking about the Jets since the last time we talked to you?
Obviously, again, correcting my assessment, unsustainable at 47%. Yeah. It's only clicking at 33% now.
I like to give you your views.
Yeah. I think I was listening to you guys chatting about it before I hopped on. And again, the thing that's impressed me most, and I wrote about the Jets very early on in the season when they were on that historic winning streak to start the season, is that ability to just kind of process it and move on and not get too up and not get too down. I mean, the entire psychology of this team has been shaped through the playoff disappointments that they've had. And the ability to just kind of treat the regular season as it is, bank points when you can, maintain, make sure you're playing well, and at the end of the day, rely on the best goalie on the planet to sort of be the foundation for all of it. But also just understand that you're building towards something greater. And I think that's been a really impressive through line for this team. I think Scott Arniel deserves a lot of credit for a lot of that psychology. But it's one of the reasons why I think they've been able to not have the same stumbles that other teams have had when they've been in the position the Jets have been in.
There's been so much talk about the play of Connor Hellebuck throughout this season. I think there'll be even more so with the Four Nations obviously coming up and the starring role that he'll have with the American team. But your mind, is he the front runner right now for the Hart, or is he in the top couple?
Well, he is, according to the voters. We had our NHL Awards Watch earlier this week. It's when we get the actual ballots from the voters. and they have Hellebuck as the leader for the Hart Trophy. I think a goalie has only won the Hart and the Vezina 4 times, I want to say, since they changed the criteria for the Vezina, and it hasn't happened since Carey Price won several years ago. So the odds are against a goalie winning the Hart. I think the voters at the end of the day are very much like the goalies have their award, the defensemen have their award, and this is for the forwards that lead their team. Or as are the most valuable to their team. So I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but I do think at this point, based on the amount of wins the Jets have and the amount of wins Hellebuck has of those Jets wins, and then also based on the fact that you have basically Draisaitl, McKinnon, Kucherov all sort of leeching off each other's vote totals right now, I think the path is pretty clear for him to be the Hart leader at this point.
What excites you about the Four Nations? I know you're going to be covering it, but what is it that you think that people should look forward to?
I mean, I'm hopeful that the quality of play is going to be outstanding. Yeah. I think it's going to be impossible for anyone that's in the environment that's going to be that USA Canada game at Bell Center to not play hard. I mean, not only are you going to have like 20,000 fans waving Canadian flags, but you have the entire undercurrent of what's happening politically between the two countries that's just going to fuel so much more emotion in that game. And then again, like, don't sleep on the fact that Sweden and Finland hate each other, like legitimately hate each other. I think that's going to be another thing too. I think the quality of play is obviously going to be better than it was for the World Cup. I was listening to somebody talking about the World Cup back in 2016, and I think it's with rose-colored glasses. Like, one, because Team North America was so much fun to watch that it kind of overshadowed how not great some of the play was in that tournament because they had their September legs, those players. Now this tournament being in season and being set up to, accentuate the rivalries, I think it's going to be impossible not to have really fun, passionate hockey, even in what's a tournament that I think a lot of these players are treating as lesser than the World Cup and obviously lesser than the Olympics.
Do you think, Greg, that maybe just this last one before we let you go, just like the fact that the Olympics are just around the corner, that some players, not the Connor McDavids, will use this as a springboard to get himself with the good books to play for their respective countries at the Olympics?
Yeah, I heard you mention that before, and that's a point that a lot of people aren't making. Like, when Alex Pietrangelo asked out, I mean, he's already won on the international level, and he kind of knows where he stands with Team Canada for 2026. Yeah. Like, he doesn't need this tournament to prove himself. And like you said, neither does McDavid, neither does Crosby. But there's you look at the Team USA roster, especially at the forward position, and how many of those guys have to earn their spot in 2026 when you have Cole Caulfield, Tage Thompson, like all of these other players that didn't make the cut that are going to be building a case to make that team over the next 2 years. I mean, there's a lot on the line for a good portion of the USA roster. There's a lot on the line down the lineup for Canada. I mean, you've got Connor Bedard knocking on the door and Macklin Celebrini knocking on the door. Like, that's part of this too. I mean, there is a certain audition happening right now. Shifley too. There's a certain auditioning happening right now for these teams that I think is important to keep in mind as far as like who's going to play hard in this tournament.
Thanks. Well, great stuff as always. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate the debate about G.I. Joe. I appreciate all the stuff. Bringing up He-Man. That's fantastic stuff. This is what we get from you when we bring you on. We never know what we're going to get.
I know. As you said, a man of focus.
Thanks, my friend.
Thanks so much, Greg.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.
The best. Yeah. And I see the comments about cartoons come up right away, right? So it's just like,
it's because it's your happy place. Let's talk Marvel. Let's talk cartoons.
Yeah.
I got you.
My kids don't watch. I don't want to get into it.
It's a whole nother.
Yeah.
Hey.
You know what? We have another guest.
Yes.
Ready to go.
One of my all-time favorites.
You guys didn't spend any time together over the past something years.
I know.
The great Chris Cuthbert joining us now on the check-in. Don't be stunned. Don't be stunned. You look taken aback by that. That just
somebody else on.
Yeah.
How you doing, CC?
I'm well. Good to be with you. I'm really out of my element if this is about G.I. Joe.
Well, that's okay. We won't discuss GI Joe. We will move on from that. All right. I wanted to ask you. We'll get into it with the Four Nations. You're going to be calling it. It's obviously airing on Sportsnet as well. What do you think a tournament like the Four Nations can do in terms of raising the profile of players? You just heard us. We were just talking to Greg, and he was talking about the importance of this tournament for some players to maybe get on the radar or continue to be on the radar for their respective countries and their teams. But for the likes of Kyle Connor, Josh Morrissey, just for fans maybe or people outside of this market to be able to see them, what can a tournament like this do for them?
No question that with all the hockey world watching, that the players that we don't expect to dominate, I mean, Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon and guys like that are not going to surprise anybody. Cale Makar, but yes, anybody else that stands out in this tournament, I think will raise their stock for sure. And I heard the end of Greg's comments about it is an ongoing audition. I know I talked to Don Sweeney back in October, November about the selection process for this team. And at the time, if you take him for his word, it had nothing to do with the Olympic team at all. So the auditions will continue for the Olympic team, and there's no doubt if somebody shines here that was one of the unexpected guys or a bubble guy, it's going to really enhance their stock for next year as well.
Some people might not be as excited about this tournament as they would say about the Olympics, but is not the most important part about this that the international calendar is back up and running for National Hockey League players, Chris?
Absolutely, and it's not the Olympics, but it will not be like an all-star game skills competition where we end up guys, wearing outfits and all that other shtick stuff that we had in the last few years. I thought the last All-Star game in Toronto was better because we kind of focused back on hockey, but it's not going to be the same as this. This is special. It's long overdue, and I think there is still in some factions a little bit of ho hum. But I think when they drop the puck in Montreal next week, I think fans are going to be riveted, and I think it's really going to ramp up in a hurry.
You're the king of juggling, Chris. I mean, different sports, different rosters at the same time. But so you're still doing the NHL right now, but then prepping for the Four Nations. Does it help the fact that this is a tournament that features NHL players as opposed to taking a break for the Olympics or for something where you might be dealing with some players that you're not seeing on a regular basis?
Yeah, for sure. There's an awfully deep dive when you're getting into the the third and fourth lines of teams like Slovenia and whatever. So I mean, I just the only concern I have so far is there's so many possible line combinations, and the coaches really have their work cut out for them in a short time to figure out the right chemistry, the right groupings, and we talked to John Cooper months ago when the team was selected, and he was talking about a line like Braden Boyd with Mitch Marner and Travis Konecny because they played the World Championships like 5-6 years ago, and what magic they produced. So I don't think we can sit there and write up the lines that we think are going to work together because I think guys like Cooper and Sullivan have other ideas. And so, play-by-play guys like the set lineup. We'll have to wait a little longer for that, but all the stars are going to be there, and that'll be fun.
We are so looking forward to your call, Chris. It's going to be, I think, once it gets going, it's going to be so exciting, and really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. We're going to have to get you to do some CFL stories another time down the road with Sarah. That's going to be like a whole corner knocked off with that.
That's right. I'm calling you again, Cece. I'm going to call you again, and we're going to have you on, and we're going to talk. We'll talk Jets. We'll talk hockey, too, but we'll take some trips down memory lane as well.
I was going to say first place in the whole league, and we didn't really even mention them, but it'll be fun to be with you again, and it was fun today. Thanks.
Thanks so much,
Thanks, Chris. All the best.
How about that backdrop there?
Oh, I know. Come on, like. If
legend.
you're as great as Chris Cuthbert is, you have to have greatness behind you. And
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's two great backdrops that we've seen from guests today because Greg always has a great one.
Wyshynski's garage obviously
is fantastic. But then, CC's, it's quite the flex with that being the office and the look of it. Thanks so much to
him
Chris
and
for-
Frank Cervalli are my favorite backdrops now.
They are very good. Yes, Frank has an excellent one.
It might be number one
for it.
Yeah.
You know, Chris and I worked together for so many years, obviously with on TSN, whether it be football or hockey, but he was always my date for the CFL awards show.
Really?
Yep, every year. So that was the joke that when I left TSN, he was like, because he left, I said, I can't do these award shows without you anymore, CC. So
Like I don't like
just
people don't realize that's the biggest appreciation. What you and I do is fun, and there's challenges to it. There's nothing harder than play-by-play.
Oh, it's everyone that sits at home and is able, and we are all armchair quarterbacks, GMs, coaches, you name it. Also armchair broadcasters.
Yes.
And it's very easy to sit and go, what are they doing?
What was that?
There is you just cannot fully appreciate, especially with hockey, with the speed of the game, the challenge that exists in calling play-by-play, which is why when you have great play-by-play broadcasters, really appreciate them and the work that they have put in to be able to get to that level, because it is not easy.
And it's you're going to, like, when say the World Championships, like the Dennis Bayak would go over to Europe and like, you have no idea about half those rosters because
no. I used to say that, I mean, the good news was if you got the name slightly incorrect, probably most people wouldn't know, but obviously great. Just an absolute legend, Chris Cuthbert. Very quickly as we continue, we're going to get close to wrapping up, but there are a couple of things that we wanted to make note of before we wrap for a couple of weeks breaks. Sure. Let's start with this. We are not dressed alike today, which is remarkable.
Highly disappointing.
Apparently they watch the show because they know that.
Well, they know they can sell two things at once.
There you go.
You sell the same item. You're not
your CCM fleece crews and hoodies, of which these are two of the options available, are on for 50% off. If you're coming to the game, you can also get it online as well, but for today only. Or if you're in the stores.
I feel like Kenny from South Park.
I don't know South Park. This went right over my
that's okay.
Right over my head.
Yeah, I know.
Back to She-Ra and G.I. Joe. So make note of that. But also a couple of, with from the content side of things that we've been doing, it's been a really busy time for our group over here. You have a podcast that is coming out?
Yes, I do. Well, it's out now.
Perfect.
Yeah, hold on. I got to share the screen here. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Dylan DeMello joined me.
Yep.
The primary conversation was kids, which is like so easy to do because I have them and we share the same ideas. But he is, I'm going to do this real quick. I apologize. And here he is talking about how his son, he's not his oldest son's favorite player.
Okay.
Here's the conversation.
Is it true that your son's favorite player is not you? Would it be somebody else in the dressing room? And if so, who would that be?
Yeah, he's a huge Connor Hellebuck fan.
Yeah.
And he's also a huge Eric Comrie fan. So those are his two favorite
That's his go-to people?
Yeah, he loves the goalies. He thinks they're cool with their gear and stuff. And then we'll play mini sticks, and he'll actually ask me, yesterday, for instance, we play mini sticks. He goes, Dad, who are you playing next? Who's starting in net? And I'm like, well, I'm not sure who's starting. It might be Hellebuck, it might be Comrie, and he'll pick. He goes, one day he'll be Hellebuck, one day he'll be Comrie. And then I have to commentate it and do all this stuff. And it's a lot of fun. He's catching on. He's getting all the logos. I bring him like the warm-up pucks, and he puts them in his room. He separates the winning games and the lost games. So he always like, Dad, did you win this game? I'm like, yeah, we won. And he puts it where the wins are and all that stuff. It's pretty funny. And I was just like that too when I was younger.
So Dylan discussing his
hold on.
Dylan discussing his kids is always hilarious. Caleb, obviously when we had done the home ice, at that point, Eric Comrie wasn't with the team. He was a huge Connor Hellebuck fan, but now that he gets older, watching him take it to that next level is great. So you don't want to miss that. That is out right now. Very entertaining podcast with Dylan DeMello. But tonight I saw someone say that they're looking forward to the next runway. Wouldn't you know? Perfect timing. Tonight is the next runway edition. You can see a small portion of it, give you a taste of it on TSN's broadcast tonight in the first intermission. And then the full episode, which again is around the 16-minute mark, 17-minute mark, goes later on tonight on our YouTube channel.
So we're gonna
Let's do it.
Let's do the trailer.
2025. Hey, we're back. The Jets have a season-long 8-game homestand.
win number 300 for Connor Hellebuck. Well, number 37 in blue shows again tonight why he is the best goaltender in the game. Nikolai Ehlers, he'll turn with it, gets it to the middle, shoots, he scores!
Should have tried to pull Adam.
Listen, Adam Lauer just walked by, and we tried to get him on earlier, and then he walks by here. He's obviously very busy. Here's the best part. So after the game on Tuesday, as we know, Adam Lauer is hurt. There was a girls hockey team here. He signed autographs for the entire team.
Yeah.
He's the best.
He's a fantastic captain, no doubt about it. So that is the trailer for Runway. This Runway episode looks at the homestand from the beginning of January. If you remember, it was 8 games, 19 days. They were here forever.
Yeah.
Was how
So you did a
you and I
pocket-
put
you
it.
did a
So we
entire
did a
show.
Runway
Yeah.
episode on
You
it.
had to do that.
But there were a ton of great moments, if you remember, during that stretch. Got great access with Connor Hellebuck regarding getting his 300th win. Dylan DeMello makes a key appearance in that one as well with his 600th game and scoring the game-winning goal. There's just so much to it. So another great episode. Super excited about this one.
Yeah, like this. There's been no shortage of great stories so far this year, and it's kind of weird that we're at game 56 already. And there's a lot of concern about losing momentum with this break coming up. But I think all the players are looking forward to relaxing, healing some bumps and bruises, and coming back for better than ever for the second part of the season.
Absolutely. Then the push to the playoffs will be on. Just very quickly as we wrap up right now, just a reminder, if you missed it for the lines earlier, the changes on the fourth line that Parker Ford comes out. Brad Lambert is going to draw in on that one. Connor Hellebuck getting the start. Ilya Sorokin is going to start for the Islanders.
Yeah.
This is the first. They play back-to-back games. They play tomorrow night in Minnesota as well. They have already said, you and I always talk about teams that tell you who their starting goaltender is.
Yeah.
They have already said he is going to start both games,
Really?
which you don't see often.
They're probably trying to get up there before the break, so obviously.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, but it should be a great game tonight. As often the case, you can catch this one on TSN. Our pregame show gets going at 6:30. Games at 7. CJOB Power 97. You can listen to the game as always as well. Paul Edmonds and Mitchell Clinton. And then you are going to have you're going to have so many stories to tell us when you come back.
Yeah. I feel like it's weird that we're not going to talk to the viewers for a long time.
I know.
Yeah.
You know what? We've loved through the first 56 shows.
Mm-hmm.
How many of you have been tuning in? How many of you have been taking part in the chats as well, which is so great. We hope to see even more people and more involvement in that push to the postseason in the middle of April.
Yeah. So just to let everybody know, I'll be at Four Nations Face Off covering the Jets players respectively. So there'll be lots of content coming from that. I'm going by myself. So forgive me already for the photos. I'm taking lessons before
He
we
just
go
wanted
here.
to throw that out there.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rest of you are doing for the 2 weeks,
I'm
but
just-
I'm going to the Four
I'm
Nations.
leaving the family behind. I'm going to Four Nations. I'm just going to sit in the hotel and I'm going to sleep and I'm going to eat well without anybody bothering me, especially you.
Oh,
But yeah, you're welcome.
that hurts.
Stop
All
it.
right.
Stop
All
this.
right.
It's all
That is a
based.
sign
Yeah.
that this needs to end. We need a break from each other.
Yeah.
We can't wait to have you guys back, though. So the first game back after the break, the Jets are in St. Louis.
Yeah.
This is a Saturday.
See, Matt is already saying have fun without me. So obviously that's going to work.
Is everyone saying have fun, have even more fun, Sarah? Exactly. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyways, enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy the next couple of weeks. Make sure that you come back and join us for that first game back against St. Louis. Then the
February
rest of the week.
22nd against St. Louis. Yeah.
I have no idea. It's a Saturday. I thought I was proud of myself for knowing it was a Saturday.
I'm happy that you knew who they were playing. That's the best part. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the next couple of weeks. We will see you after the Four Nations break, and we appreciate all of you. We will see you soon. Thanks so much for checking in.